You are listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise, and federally certified veteran-owned small business. I'm your host, Robert Bain, along with our producer, Chris Spangle. Our podcast is featured on the All Indiana Podcast Network in partnership with Wish TV. You may find Leaders and Legends at allindianapodcastnetwork.com. Thinking of starting a podcast or need to host a public meeting? Let Leaders and Legends LLC be your partner as you look for new ways to communicate your message. Please contact us at chris@leadersandlegends.net. As always, all our podcast interviews are dedicated to the legacy and generosity of P.E. McAllister. Our guest today, Angela Ganote. If you don't follow her on X and you don't watch her in the morning, there's a good chance you probably don't know what's happening in our city. I'm lucky enough to have been friends, or at least to have met Angela 35 years ago, my very first class in college after leaving the Army. She was kind to me then, and she's very kind to come on the podcast. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's crazy to think about you walking into a class all those years ago, and then here we are.
With glasses and a porn stash and a high and tight haircut and no clue and ready to take on all the liberal political science professors because I thought I knew more than they did, which was not even close to being true. But it was Dr. Rothman, Roseanne Rothman, rest in peace, and I became super close. She's a wonderful lady, beyond brilliant. And I want to also notice today that we've just heard the news about the passing of the Pope. So Pope Francis, please rest in peace. Angela, thank you for coming on the podcast.
You are very welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I never heard of Brownsburg until you became a celebrity here locally. So Brownsburg, I have some friends, Rob Kendall, Jeff Bennett. I don't know if you know Jeff Bennett, who used to be deputy mayor for Hogsett. He's from Brownsburg, and we were in graduate school together. How does Brownsburg look to you now as compared to when you grew up?
Well, I think you have to go back. I'll be 55 this year, and so I moved there when I was 2. So you think about 53 years of change is what you think about. I lived in a neighborhood. My parents built a house in a neighborhood called Northridge, right off 267, which is kind of close to the McDonald's area on the north side of town. And there was no McDonald's there, not even. Every single thing there was a cornfield, and there was a wake-up gas station and a thing called Northside Pantry. And that's where we would shop for like the little essentials. So talk about change. I mean, it is nothing that is the same, basically.
Is it cool to this in the sense that you don't necessarily carry the Brownsburg banner, but you kind of do. Like, you're a personification of the growth of what is now a vibrant community.
I do, and I'm proud to be from the town of Brownsburg, and obviously grew up there and went to high school there. I still go to church in Brownsburg. I live in North Salem now, but it was just on Easter Sunday. I was actually there on Easter Saturday, and a couple came up to me and they said, "Do you know who we are?" And I hadn't seen them since decades probably. And I said, okay, I know I went to high school with your children. And if I stand here long enough, I will be able to remind myself which of my friends, or which one of my classmates you belong to. But for some reason right now, I can't do it. So it was neat though, because they were teasing me just about remembering me from high school and not seeing them for so many years.
Do you enjoy I have all sorts of questions and I'm going to try to follow a discernible pattern. But do you enjoy being recognized?
I think it's hard either way, but I do and I don't. I do in the sense that I'm just still feel like the girl in jeans and a t-shirt and a baseball hat, just as average as can be. So when I'm out somewhere, I feel like sometimes I'm a disappointment, if that makes sense. Because I'm like, I think people would see me as, oh, that's Angela Ganote. I'm like, oh my gosh, she really is just, she's got on a grungy sweatshirt or cut off shorts and her hair's in a ponytail with no makeup. It's not really that glamorous. So I always joke that I hope I don't disappoint people by being so average, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And do you enjoy being able to help people? Because I'm going to guess, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording about our friend Rafael Sanchez, former podcast guest. People come to you for help. Do you enjoy that aspect of journalism?
That is the number one thing that I enjoy. And I was just talking to my daughter yesterday about her path. She's graduating a year early from IU, and she's probably going to grad school, but she was just a little kind of, I'm going to say, going through a little hard time thinking about, Mom, I don't want to work as many hours as you work, and you work all the time. And I said, but Ash, when you love something and when you find that thing that you're passionate about, it won't feel like work. And so for me, there are a lot of times that I get taken away from my family. Even people say, well, why are you responding on vacation? Well, let me just put it this way. And I'm a very emotional person. I get, I cry at the drop of the hat or something. But if a lot of the people that are reaching out to us or me, people reach out to Raphael a lot for consumer type things and needing help for, somebody just ripped me off of $7,500 for some stupid bill and they got it wrong and can you make it right? And people probably reach out for him for these reasons too. But for me, I would say 75% of the people reaching out to me, their child's been murdered. Their child's been molested. Their child has been raped. Their child has been something has happened to them or a loved one, or they've been wronged. It's a crime. And for me, if I'm, let's say, on vacation and someone reaches out for help and someone, you think I don't have a heart and I don't want to respond? I'm sorry, I'm on vacation. I can't help you. Are you joking? I think that sometimes I want to say I get offended, but maybe a little bit, but say, well, you're on vacation. Can you ever take a break? Well, if you care about humanity, if you care about people, I'm here with my children like on spring break. Right. And this happened. This is probably why it was recent. And somebody made a comment like, golly, you're on vacation. Just take a break. Like, how am I supposed to tell a mom whose child just died, I'm sorry, I'm on vacation. I can call you when I get back.
I'm on the beach in Turks and Caicos, Ramen, whatever.
Yeah,
so you just hold your grief until I get back, and then I'll make time for you.
I just can't do that. So, but I get a lot of what makes me feel good about myself, being able to help others.
Do you enjoy being known as or considered approachable?
I hope that is that what people think? I hope that is. Yes, I love that.
How does your husband Brad handle it?
Oh, he's my husband Brad. He is a saint. He's amazing. My kids are great. Ashlyn, when she was little, she said out of nowhere once we were in Brownsburg at Kroger or Walmart someplace, and out of nowhere she said, "Mom, I wish you were a dog groomer." And I said, "What?" She said, "I wish you were a dog groomer." And because she wanted a dog, A, and she didn't have one yet, and B, she said, because then no one would know you. And no one would stop and talk to you all the time. And I'd have my mom to myself. And I thought that was precious and sweet. But in the same way, people do. I love it. They're at the grocery store. I was at the grocery store with my family this weekend. And somebody heard my name and the cashier, young girl, Angela, I've been watching you since as young as I can remember. I said, well, how old are you? And she said, 21. I said, well, of course, because I've been doing the news here in Indiana for 24 years. So 3 years before you were even born.
Do you look at all the stories that you've covered and have any of them, and we're going to get back into your biography and some other things, but there are a lot of big stories that have happened in your tenure, and I don't want to bury the lead because I want to make sure I asked you about it, and that is there any one that sticks out?
Well, I think that a lot of people always bring up Dr. Klein because it's on, Our Father, and it's a Netflix special. I broke that story in 2015, and now, as of just a few days ago, there are 107 children that he fathered, and that was one that was the most notable as far as more people knowing about that story. But there are ones that touch me more than anything, and I actually have a little notebook that I keep, the ones that I just have a little synopsis, and I'll go back every once in a while and look at them. And one of them was, we talked about a little bit, I can't remember if we were on air yet, but talking about Indiana University. And I was a cheerleader at IU, and one of my fellow classmates, Natalie Humphreys, she became Natalie Bales. She died of ALS. And one of our other friends said, would you tell her story before she dies? And it won an Emmy, but not because of what I did. It was because of her vulnerability and wanting people to know about the disease and wanting to allow people to see how it was taking her life. And she had a little girl named Ruby, her little daughter. And I think that when you talk about humanity and wanting to help people, some people would think like, why would you ever tell that story? Or I can't believe you shared that story. Well, people don't understand sometimes. And I think this is something that it's very different for every person. Some people they want to be heard more than anything. They want you to hear their voice and to have their story told. And I was honored to be able to tell her story. So that's one for sure that sticks out.
That's happened to us. Chris, remember we did a podcast with Mike Riley. And Mike was suffering from terminal cancer. Mm-hmm. And is a very well-known attorney kind of throughout the state. Mm-hmm. But his claim to fame is he was Robert Kennedy's campaign manager in Indiana in 1968.
Okay.
When Kennedy, had the famous speech the night of Martin Luther King's assassination and so on and so forth. And a big part of that was them just wanting, he's actually Ryan Mears's father-in-law. Because the whites, they all grew up went to Scene in the East Side. Anyway, I wanted to hear his story. They wanted him to tell his story before he passed. Mm-hmm. And it was a terrific podcast. Mm-hmm. And those are the kind of things like, what are you going to do? Say no? I mean, he was a great interview regardless, right. But with the special circumstance, do you get more requests like that than you can possibly handle?
Requests like that, maybe not when someone's dying to tell that type of story, but yes. But I think more than anything, it's just the overwhelming amount of people that do want help or do want their voice heard from a range of stories and topics. I mean, if you look at the way that people can reach you now through Instagram and X and Facebook and email and calling the station, I mean, there are hundreds of people. And I think there is a overwhelming feeling of, I don't even know how to explain it other than to say, I just feel sometimes so disappointed in myself that I can't help more people. And then the feeling of, I don't want someone not to like me or to think that I don't care about them or that I don't think that their pain is great enough or worthy enough for me to give them attention. I think that's the hardest part, is that I wish I could let everyone know that I care about them and I wish I had time for everyone.
Do you get the sense that they don't understand that? Some of them must and some of them must not.
I don't know, because you can't talk to all of them. And I mean, I think that in our business, you remember, let's say you had 20 people that reached out to you, right, and 19 of them gave you something positive, but you had one that stung because you didn't do what they had hoped, or like they had a family member that died and they were like, you didn't care about me. And then all of a sudden it just hurts because you know what pain feels like, and you know what it feels like to not be heard. And I've been there on personal things that I had to be quiet about, and that you're like, I wish that I could have spoken. I wanted someone to hear me. And I think it's just that I can feel what they feel. Yeah. So it's hard, I think. It's a hard balance.
Does part of that make you want to be like, well, then I'm just stepping away from everything?
Honestly,
I'm not getting yelled at one time out of 20, so the hell with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there is that, right? If we're going to admit that we're human, how can you not think sometimes, or just say, maybe it's time for me to, but that doesn't last very long. There's way too much, the good is just, there's so much of it out there and so much positivity. And I do this as, not to be religious, but I am a very strong Christian. So God gives me a lot of positive to make sure that I'm still, I know that I'm doing and making him proud of the things that I am doing. So that's short-lived, but we're still human. And I believe in Satan, and I believe that he will attack you, and he knows my weak spot. He knows that I care about people deeply, and I want them to know it. And so he knows how to work that in there. True
or false, Satan wears black and gold? We'll come back to that. You're listening to the Leaders and Legends
Boiler up.
You are listening to the Leaders and Legends podcast. Our guest is one of the most remarkable journalists I've ever met, and that's Angela Ganote. She's very kindly decided to come on the podcast. We mentioned Brownsburg High School. Were you a cheerleader there?
I was.
And then you went to IU straight out of high school?
I did, and that was so intimidating coming from a small school at the time. Brownsburg was a tiny little town, and we had my graduating class had don't quote me, 160 kids, 170-ish, something like that. And then you go, just to go to tryouts, there were 300 girls at tryouts at that time. And you think, how in the world am I ever going to stand out? How is this girl from, Brownsburg, whose parents at the time did not go to college? And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? I don't have a clue what I'm doing. And then I made it. It was so much fun. I still remember the day of looking at the board when it said the numbers and the names of the people who made it. And I went to IU for one reason. I went to IU because I loved IU basketball. Seriously, did not apply to any other college.
You took my next question, which was it always just IU for you?
Yeah, I never applied anywhere else. I want to go to IU. I loved IU basketball. I loved everything about it. It was appointment TV, watched with my mom, dad, brothers, my grandparents. I mean, growing up, that's what we did.
So you graduated, you mentioned your age, so I don't feel bad saying you graduated in high school
89.
in 89. So I graduated from high school in 86.
Okay.
On the east side of Indianapolis, which I can tell you're educated because you said Kroger and not Kroger's.
No S's.
Which is what we say. And so your point about IU basketball, and I had a note to ask you about it. I have not watched an IU game in
years.
At least 10.
Yeah.
And my friend Mark Apple, who's an IU grad, I think you may know Mark, he does PR here, and Bill Benner,
yes,
whom I love and is Mr. IU, they get on me a hard time in our monthly lunches. And I'm like, I don't need anything else to make me want to walk in front of a bus. And freaking IU basketball. And I said, even if they start winning again, I've decided I'm not going to watch them anymore being hypocrite. But the people who are young now simply, and I don't want to sound crotchety, don't understand how monstrously big IU basketball was in the 70 night came, I think, in 72 through at least the early 90s when you were there. It was appointment watching. You never missed the Chuck Marlowe show. You never missed, I just had him on the podcast, Don Fisher just came on.
Amazing.
Missed his shows with Coach Knight. So you're going there and you go there in 89, 2 years away from winning the national championship in 87. 89, they were supposed to be terrible. IU wins the Big Ten with Jay Edwards and all that. And then you're there cheering through the Calbert Chaney years. So full disclosure, I've had Gene Cady on my podcast. So if you're a Purdue fan, don't think that I'm completely ignoring you. But those years were some of the best years to be at IU, to be involved in what you're doing. What was it like?
I don't want to keep talking about Ashland because I do have a son, Brock, who's equally amazing, but he's going to Wabash next year. Ashland is the one at IU, so we have that connection. But I say, I wish so badly that you could feel what it was like, because she's gone to one or two basketball games. And I said, if you would have been able to experience what it was like when I was in school, when the Fab Five, when Michigan was playing at IU, and you felt, when we won the game at home that I was cheering at, and you felt like Assembly Hall was literally going to collapse.
Were you right there where Alan Henderson blocked the shot?
I am right there. I'm right.
Being a cheerleader on the baseline.
Right on the floor, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel like you can feel the rumbling in your chest, and you're kind of thinking, is this place going to crumble? The coolest feeling. You know what it's like when you're at any kind of a sport event. Take the Indianapolis 500, when everybody's on their feet, the roaring of the engines, and you feel the whole crowd just, that's what it was like. And it was, so much fun.
Did you get to know Coach Knight very well?
Not really. I mean, people are surprised to know that we would get in trouble. This is like a short little story. So our job was to keep the opposing fans, our fans could not wave their arms when the opposing team was shooting free throws. People would think that was crazy. Like, why would coach? He wanted them to have respect and to say, no, you don't act crazy. I mean, nowadays people be like, we do that all the time. He would get mad at us if we didn't make our fans sit down so that their team could shoot free throws without commotion behind them. That is a true story. People are like, wait, what? Coach Knight, he would say, make them sit down. Yeah.
Did they listen to you?
Yeah. I mean, for the most part, be like, hey, can you guys, Coach Knight?
What's it like being close to the huddle when Knight was on one of his benders?
I grew up with a father who was like, you will be a tough girl. he gave my brothers us boxing gloves. And if we were fighting, he'd be like, go fight it out. I had a father that, allowed my brothers to punch me and for me to punch them. So that whole thing of when Knight was on a bender was like again, this was a different time where nowadays, or even like late into before he was fired, it was not, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal, but it's a much different time now. Can you imagine giving your daughter and son boxing gloves and say, all right, go punch it out?
Is that Fab 5 game? It was in the 92-93 season. The Fab 5 were sophomores. Knight, by the way, had a 3-1 record against the Fab 5, but Chris Webber takes a shot and Henderson blocks it. Is that your biggest, best memory, or was it? Did you go to the Final Four when they played Duke?
Because I was on the all girls cheerleading squad, so we cheered all home basketball and all home football games. So we did not travel with the team unless it was in Indianapolis. So I didn't travel, but that is, the moments of those games are among the best. And
now you have IU football. What was it like? Because even on social media, you were very active. Mm-hmm. You're like, wow, IU football is good.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. And that's been a blast. I love, my husband's Italian. Mm-hmm. So we like the whole Coach Signetti's, the way he carries himself and is cocky. I like that I like that.
Is it every person I've ever met and or just interviewed for the podcast would go back to Bloomington tomorrow and start all over? Would you?
Is it the Bloomington of our time or the Bloomington of today?
Let's say your time.
Yeah, I would probably do it again.
Wouldn't it be fun to go back and not be poor?
I think so, right? Yes. But, I think that, so for example, my son Brock is graduating. He'll be going to Wabash. That's a college, obviously I knew about, but my younger brother went to DePaul and he was a quarterback at DePaul. I didn't really know anything about Wabash except that there was a Monon Bell game and we hate Wabash, so beat them. That's the only thing I really knew. So when they started recruiting Brock, I was like, okay, well, what's this school all about? I love Wabash, so I can see myself now, really cheering on them and getting involved in that community.
Well, have you told the Governor Braun, about it?
Not yet. Haven't had the opportunity.
We have had so many Wabash, and in politics, especially Republican Party politics, no offense, Steve Campbell, he should get involved. It's a wonderful fraternity they have, small f, with Wabash. Mm-hmm. You left college, and I'm looking through your bio. I read it this morning. I got a very detailed and wonderful bio from you this morning.
I was so prompt on sending that right over.
You've worked in Lafayette. That must have been tough. South Bend, perhaps not as tough.
Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
Bob Davey. It's funny. I kind of took the tour because I love sports, mm-hmm. and I don't have the greatest memory of names and coaches and the things that probably you do, but, I kind of mark those by, who was at, which university and what I got to cover as far as sports. So
did you get to be friends with Calbert Cheney and Greg Graham?
No,
and
we didn't really.
All those great players from Damon Bailey?
I didn't fraternize with the players at all. That kind of wasn't my thing. But we definitely, had a mutual respect. But I did not become friends with anyone.
Have you talked to Pat Knight since he took the gig at Marian University?
No. But I did know Pat Knight in college because he dated a friend of mine. So a little bit. I do talk to his mom sometimes, though.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that she was still alive. Mm-hmm. Is she Nancy?
Yeah, she is.
God love her. Good. You went to Ohio
State. I say Ohio. I was, WCMH. I work for the NBC affiliate, but again, it's more of, I was in Ohio State country, So people are like, how did you do that being an IU fan? I'm like, you can, a lot of people that are IU fans, obviously, a rival like Purdue, but also Ohio State. They're the worst fans. Ohio State has the worst fans. Like, how can, when you live there and you become part of the community and you see the passion for their sports, I don't hate Ohio State.
Is it fun to wear your allegiances not only on your sleeve but publicly, right? So that people who are huge IU fans love following you because you're so passionate about it. But then do you get the texts or the DMs saying, "Oh, you sucks," they haven't beaten Purdue and this and that.
All the time. And then they'll say, you should give more props to Purdue. You never talk about Purdue. And then I'm like, okay, have you not? I'm like, you need to listen to what I just said here. I love their volleyball team. Their volleyball team is amazing. I'm always like retweeting and talking about them. I'm like, you choose to hear what you want to hear, because I do give props to Purdue all the time, but you don't want to hear it.
And Katie Gerald's is phenomenal. I
Right.
refereed Katie Gerald's when she was at Holy Name.
Oh, really?
I was in graduate school and was refereeing basketball, and she was head and shoulders. No one else was even close to her.
Wow.
You couldn't call anything on her. Traveling, foul. She never did anything wrong.
You're like, I'm trying to find something wrong that you do.
Always wanted to come back to Indiana. You were in Ohio. You're always like, I need to get back to Indianapolis.
Absolutely. Just I'm a family. My family, God family, number one, number two, always. My family, my mom and dad are still here. At that time, my grandma and grandpa were still living here. When I moved back, they were still alive. And my brothers, and I couldn't imagine living in a town that was not near my family.
You are listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise and federally certified veteran-owned business. Our guest this morning is local media superstar, 5-time Emmy winner, Angela Ganote. Angela, is there a particular Hoosier leader and or legend you admire most?
Oh, goodness. I wish you would have asked me that question before. You put me on the spot here. How about you give me some people and you say, hey, who
Chris, our streak is unbroken.
On people that are able to give somebody the name, and it's...
No, the only people who have fussed about not having questions ahead of time are journalists.
Oh, yeah.
And as someone, who's done multiple live interviews and been, quote unquote, ambushed out there, I have no sympathy for the journalists. I wish I'd have known what you're asking.
No,
like,
but
welcome to the club, brother.
Yeah, but just let me add, does Angela Ganote ambush anyone?
No.
That's not my style.
No.
I don't ambush. If you want to talk to me, you get to talk to me, and I'm not going to give you the questions ahead of time, but I might say, hey, we're going to talk about people that you look up to or that...
You want me to give you some names?
Absolutely.
Kara Kinney.
Kara Kinney is actually, she's a great journalist. Kara Kinney she lives in Brownsburg right now. Oh, we text back and forth sometimes. I'll tell you, she will ambush you. She will go get you.
I am quite familiar.
She's a bulldog.
I am quite familiar.
Absolutely.
She's one of the, if not the best, one of the best. She's terrific.
Oh, she is.
And Where's Her Eye You Love.
Yeah, it's so funny that you brought up Kara. This will be funny. We'll have to text and let her know that we talked about her.
Allison Barber. Do you know Allison? Used to run the Fever, is now doing all sorts of things. And the reason I mention her name, because I'm going to mention several others.
Yeah.
And that's Allison Melangton.
Yeah, she's impressive is how I would define her. Is there anything she can't do?
Nothing.
I mean...
Nothing. She's Midas. She's Midas.
She is.
Tamika Catchings?
Same. Interviewed her several times, class act, personable, intelligent, badass.
And she has a wonderful tea shop, Tease Me, just north of downtown. Yeah. I was there a couple days ago chatting with another reporter.
Yeah.
It's terrific. Have you been able to interview any first ladies of Indiana? Do you have some general impressions?
Karen Pence, I've interviewed several times. She comes on the show often. She just started a new charity. And, I think it's neat to see what people are passionate about, and when could be doing anything in their life, what do they choose to give back to, and what do they love, and, who do they want to help? So that's interesting to me. That's one that stands out. I hate it because when I agree to do a podcast, you have a great memory, and and I find that with a lot of people, my memory, and I joke sometimes that is it because I'm getting older, but I think that for me, like the things that are it's not so much the people, even like in our city or like leaders. It's just, I can't stress it enough, and I hope it comes across in this interview, where the people I'm most impressed with are just everyday, average Hoosiers that are reaching out and then I'm getting to know through Fox 59. And I'm kind of a homebody in that, and like really keep to myself. And the things that I do and speak or events that I do are a lot of one-on-one, or very, going to a prison, talking to, it's a lot of things that aren't big, huge productions and like some of the biggest leaders of the city. It's really a lot of the behind scene things that I like to do. Picking up trash in the city, those are the kinds of things.
They're always around the cultural trail because I live a block away from it. Have you had a chance to interview Pamela Whitten, sit down with her, the president of Indiana University?
I have not interviewed her, but I speak to her when I go to events. We have volleyball seats, front row seats at AU volleyball. And so when she's in, I'll walk up and just sit and speak to her for a few minutes.
She's a rock star.
Yeah.
I think she's a terrific, has a vision for what Indiana University is going to be. And it's interesting because she's never said this, or I've never asked her this. She was on the podcast and I've seen her a few times. Mitch Daniels has shown the way in higher education to a large degree, no pun intended. And I think she's looked at that and said, if they can do it, we can certainly do it.
Mitch Daniels, he's somebody I really respect. I think I'm trying to remember if he's coming on the show this Wednesday or next week. It's coming up that he'll be on talking a little bit more about his business school and how well it's doing. But talk about someone who financially can figure out how to not make your college costs go up. That in and of itself.
I hate to say my kid went to Purdue. He's now in law school at IU, but his tuition didn't go up.
No.
The 4 years he was there. And I want to ask about one other person, how this person changed your life. We have lots of people who are helping us and lots of people who love us and who say, maybe try.
Yeah.
And for me, it was obviously people like Greg Ballard and P.E. McAllister, Jennifer Hollowell, who went to IU. I'm guessing you may know. She gave me a job I didn't deserve to have 16 years ago, or more than that, 20 years ago. Anne Marie Tiernan. I've worked with her multiple times. I know how smart and professional and witty she is. It's a little different for you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so we were talking about IU basketball, right? So she came down to do a story on IU in the Final Four and did the story through the cheerleaders that came to one of our practices and was trying to get the story in. Here's the hype that's going on campus and going around to different places. So she was at our cheerleading practice. And at the time, I had no clue what I wanted to do. I mean, I had been an education major. I'd been a social work major. I had changed my major then to I was going through the College of Arts and Sciences to get a degree in speech communications because I had no idea. This was I had changed it going into my senior year. And I was just looking at her like, oh my gosh, she's so pretty. And oh my gosh, she's on the TV and look how cute she is. And I was just sitting there looking at her probably like in awe. And then for some reason, out of nowhere, she just asked me, what are you going to do when you graduate from college? And I said, I have no idea. I've changed my major 3 times. I have no idea what I'm doing. She literally said within seconds, you could do what I do. And I said, man, okay, well, how would I do that? She's like, come and follow me. Just come job shadow me one day. She literally just invited me to job shadow her, and I did. And then from that, I said, okay, now I have to figure out how to do this for a living. And then I found out that I needed to have an internship because I needed to make a tape of myself. And then nobody would give me an internship because I'd already graduated college. So I walked into Channel 13, I walked into Wish TV, I walked into Fox 59, and I walked into WRTV 6 with a resume. And I said, hey, I want to do an internship. How could I do that? Nobody said yes, or they just said, okay, I'll take your resume and let you have it. Well, it's Channel 6, the receptionist said, hold on a second. And for some reason, she went and got the man who was in charge of it. And he said, okay, I'll give you a chance, basically, in a nutshell. So I worked 9 to 5, August, September, October, November, December of 93, right after I'd graduated, and enrolled back in college to take an independent study class just to get those credits to count. And then from there, I got my first job. But I was working at Channel 6 with Ed Sorensen in that sports department covering Alan Henderson. So after I had graduated, Alan then hurt his knee.
In the 92, 93 season.
Did he have a tear? I'm trying to remember back then. But anyway, I covered that and got them. It's like, well, I know I can get in touch with the IU. I mean, I just graduated there,
Right.
So, yeah.
God love Alan Henderson. What a terrible injury.
So that's how I got my job, my first job in TV, just from that. Was able to make a tape from my internship at Channel 6.
And when did you reconnect with Anne Marie?
Well, I think that always maybe stayed in touch, but then probably when I came back to Fox, and I think one of the first times that somebody did a story on me coming back to Indiana, and then people heard the story, and then especially with social media, it became super easy to, we message each other. Yeah.
The irony is that when I was in the Army, I had a TV show for 2.5 years.
Did you?
Mm-hmm. That was my military occupation.
What was the
White Sands Week?
Okay,
Still very popular.
What did you talk about? What was your show?
It was just about everything happening. So you familiar with White Sands Missile Range?
No.
Did you see the movie Oppenheimer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so White Sands Missile Range is where they detonated the first atomic bomb near Alamogordo, New Mexico. So when I got out of basic training in AIT, which was at Fort Harrison because it was called DINFOS, the Defense Information School, and I was sent there, and my son did 2 tours in Afghanistan, so he, as a combat infantryman, so he says he redeemed my military service by going overseas, which I fully concede. But I kind of thought that's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And then I enjoyed politics so much, I took a different path. And then, in 2006, they merged. And I'm, got very lucky. And then when Ballard won, it was a whole nother level. Speaking of someone who loves IU and would go back tomorrow, it's Greg Ballard. I'll ask about a couple of stories. You have covered so many stories that are rooted in sadness. Delphi is probably the one that's closest in terms of a temporal connection. What takes you to those stories, to those families who you see at the absolute worst moments of their life? Is there something, because you talked about covering sports and, other than the occasion, the loss where people are mad for 24 hours, you've covered families who will never get over what they've been through. And you're, quite frankly, candidly, you're a source of comfort to them. What makes you, and I'm going to bring up one particular, because you and I were both involved with it, but what brings you to those stories? Why do they you attach yourself to them and they attach themselves to you?
I think we just find each other, and you hate to, I know my weaknesses. I can list them. There are many, but I also know my strengths, and I have a heart full of empathy, and I legitimately care about people, and I'm not afraid to show it. I don't have this uncomfortable feeling like, should I give them a hug, or what should I say? It just comes out very naturally to be really authentic, and if you're hurting, it's easy for me to connect with you and to give you a hug and to be legitimately concerned and want to be able to, if I can ease the burden in any way, I want to. So I think it's just I don't want to say it's a gift, but I do think that God gives everybody different qualities. And I am by nature a very empathetic person.
Do you have you mentioned your book, your little notebook. Yeah. In that notebook, are there stories mysteries, crimes that haven't been solved that you go, I'm going to come back to this one day?
Not necessarily. I think it's usually not a crime that hasn't been solved. I'm just thinking of another. So here's another example. So Jerry Florkowski, he was a UPS driver. His daughter was pregnant, and she was riding with her husband, and somebody flew through a stop sign on a beautiful sunny day, hit her on the side. She died. The baby got to live for a few hours, and then he got to hold his granddaughter for a few hours before she died. Within a couple of months, he goes back on the job, and this was when I was working in South Bend. He's back on the job as a UPS driver, and he sees a car on fire, and he stops, and he pulls a baby out of the car, and that little girl survives and helps the mom and her friend that were in the car. And in that moment, I got to tell this story of this man who had I told the story when he lost his daughter. And then when he got this story that he was, not story, but in his life, he then months later is able to save a baby when his baby granddaughter had just died. Those are the stories that you think, as a believer, I think that God gave him that ability to save that one, to just show that there's something bigger and that there's hope and that you're going to be okay. Those are the stories that I don't know. People find me, I find them. And that's to me, like when you ask, like, what kind of things do you remember? I don't remember like the leader that I interviewed. People ask me all the time, who's the most famous person? I'm like, I don't even care. I don't know who. I honestly can't remember all the famous people I interviewed because the Jerry Florkowskis of the world are the people that are the most famous to me. If that makes sense.
Have you ever thought about, man, I wish I was around to have covered that story? What would that story be?
You know, I think probably because you're asking me this and we just covered today the Oklahoma City bombing.
The anniversary.
Yeah, we just covered that. We just covered Columbine today again. And I think all these Columbine happened when I was actually working in the news business, but I wasn't in that city or town.
Sure.
But I think when I look back at some of the stories that were the ones that made me first as someone who was younger and thought, I don't know, how would I have covered if I would have lived in Oklahoma City? How would I have covered that? Would I have been, too young to been able to give the kind of empathy to people? Would I even have been able to tell this story in an appropriate way? But those are the kind of things I'm glad that I have the wisdom that I do now. And, being a mom and being a wife, that I've been able to learn so much. And maybe that makes me a better person in the way I tell my stories or connect with people.
Have you watched the Netflix special on Oklahoma City?
You know what? I don't think I have.
I watched it last night.
Okay.
You should definitely watch it.
I'll
Because
probably watch it today or tomorrow.
Well,
because every documentary, everything that's true, that's like the only thing that I watch.
There are several segments
Yeah.
or interviews with the journalists who were there that day.
Okay.
That's why I think you'll
Yeah.
find it particularly
Okay.
compelling.
What year did it come out?
I think it's brand new.
Okay.
I don't really watch
Yeah.
TV, so I'm not.
Me neither. That's why
Jacqueline
but I
had
will-
it on, and so I was like,
watch
okay, I'll watch
documentaries
it.
all the time. That's the one thing I watch.
And it's also in what was a absolutely horrible, terrible, unjustified, undeserved bit of bad luck. April 19th, 1995 is when Richard Lugar announced he was running for president. And the coverage got completely stepped on.
Wow,
He
yeah.
deserved so much better. As many would have won. I wish
Yeah.
he'd have been president. But I felt badly for him. It happened it was in Pan Am Plaza, was his announcement.
Wow.
What's the first big story you remember as a kid? You've been complaining about your memory, so we're going to get it.
Bad. So the first story, like the kind of news story that I remember as a kid.
You were born in 70, 71?
I was born in 1970.
70.
So, and now I would have been able to think of Tony Kritzis. What's his name?
Tony Kritzis.
Is that how you say his
Richard
name?
Hall.
Yes. That's the story I remember as a kid that was on the news, not understanding, wait, Mom, what? Somebody has a gun and somebody's in the city doing what? I mean, I remember that is the first story.
Want me to send you my podcast interview with Richard Hall?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, we'll listen to that. That's the first. I mean, how old? What year was that?
That's February, I think, of 77, 78. I remember it for several reasons, but candidly, because Kritzis kept saying the F word on the air. And even though my mother was in the Marine Corps,
Yeah.
I'd never heard that word before. My father was in the Marine Corps as well. I'm like, what's that mean? She's just, don't worry about it. And Richard Hall came on the podcast, and he was as honest as anyone. I've done 320 interviews now.
Okay.
And if you want to know about that day, and it's interesting, I won't tell the story because I want you to, we'll text about it.
Okay.
But I asked him, when was he the angriest, I think, is kind of close to my question, Chris. And his answer will surprise you.
Okay.
You'll be like,
Wow.
you got to be kidding me. Do you remember the Burger Chef murders?
Yes. Not well, but absolutely. And then another one that's
The documentarians come on your...
for Burger Chef. Yes.
Because they were on my podcast.
Yeah.
And it was phenomenal. And the documentary, I'm assuming you watched it, was off the charts.
Well, and just that's one where you think, how can we not know more about what happened? And then I'm going to the other one that really hit me because I've been still in college then when the 3 HSE kids had their throats slit. Kofi, still in prison for that. That was, we were asking about young things, that I remember, because I think you just think like, how does that happen where a teenager gets their throat slit?
Like it usually is, drugs.
Yeah, right.
Is there, I'm going to use the verb abused, but that's not what I want to say, but I'm going to do the best I can. Is it hard not to use your power, which you have, not only because hundreds of thousands of people watch you every week, your social media brand and personal brand is terrific and trusted. Is it hard not to use it sometimes to be like, you want to cut me off in traffic, bitch?
Oh,
I got your license plate number. Or, hey, you want to undercook my steak at so-and-so? Or, I'm kind of come up with ludicrous examples, but you could, if you wanted to, go, you want the spotlight? I'll give you the frickin' spotlight.
I'll tell you, though, I think that I don't really feel, so when someone says hearing you say you have this brand or you have that power, I don't really believe that, if that makes sense. I don't see that. But I'll say this, my personality in general, and I've gotten a lot better as I've gotten older. Even when I was young, I'm a justice seeker. So if you cut me off, I'm like, not because of who I like as a TV person, or like you cut in line somewhere or you drop your trash, you don't put your cart back. My inside, like I was at Kroger yesterday in Brownsburg, and there was somebody left their Starbucks cup and there was trash on the floor. And I'm like, I'm going to pick that up. I can't believe somebody would leave that. And Ashley's mom, it's okay. You can just leave it. I'm like, no, that's disgusting. Who leaves their trash and just throws their crap down on the floor? It's just that's not right, And Ashley's mom, I know sometimes, but it's okay just to leave it. I'm like, no, our place needs to look clean. It needs to look nice. You got to take care of things. So my nature outside of having quote unquote power or not is to be a justice seeker and to do the right thing and to call out BS if I see it. Absolutely. And when somebody comes at me on social media, if you ever look, if someone will say, well, why? So like, for example, there was a standoff in Liston, Pittsburgh area over the weekend. And one of the neighbors sent a photo because there was an older man who lived in a home, and he woke up to a person in his home passed out. And so sheriff's deputies are around with guns drawn, and they're like, everyone's, what's happening? Oh my gosh, are they dead inside? Did someone shoot someone? And so we're trying to get the story, and it's raining. There's a thunderstorm. And the viewer that sent a photo was, I don't know, maybe a half mile back, a quarter mile back. And somebody said, if you used a drone, if you had a better professional camera, you would have had a better picture. And I said, my response on Facebook was, listen to yourself. You have a house surrounded by sheriff's deputies with their guns and their rifles drawn in the middle of a thunderstorm. And you are complaining about a better photo. Like basically, get a hold of yourself. Right?
But social media is complaint ground zero.
Yeah. But I will call, I might just, maybe we'll get a better photo. I'm like, I will call you on your...
Have you ever wanted to go, I'm sure you've had opportunities, national news media? Because local Fox, people confused with Fox News. Because I've even had clients, I'm like, hey, I could probably get you an interview on the Fox Morning Show. And they're like, I don't like Fox. I'm like, no. This is a different Fox. Have you had those opportunities? And you don't have to say specific, but what made you stay?
Just small town girl. Have no desire to live in a big city, and I'm, spending money on clothes or jewelry and nails, and that's just not who I am. I'm the girl that would rather just be in jeans and a t-shirt talking to my local Hoosier. I have no desire to live in a big city and to have the rat race of being at that level, the high level like that. No, zero desire whatsoever.
Well, small towns also have the best Dairy Queens.
That's true. Or dairy bars like we have in my community.
That's right. We have just a few more minutes with Angela Ganote, award-winning journalist, IU grad, and all-around sweet person.
Perfect example. I didn't pick up this phone call, but the person was just calling me. They have a loved one who was killed in a car crash. So I'm literally getting a phone call right now from a cousin of someone who wants to talk to me about getting justice for their that's why I didn't pick up the phone, but that was who was just calling me.
We'll be mindful of your time, especially then.
Absolutely.
And you and I worked on a story involving, we worked on several stories, but involving Bloomington and the death of a terrific young kid. I came right to you, not only because of the Bloomington IU connection, which I know you would understand, but also because of the senseless tragedy of it. And my clients, I guess I shouldn't say their name, but they felt so much better after talking with you. You understood where they were coming from, that, this proposed punishment for the perpetrator just simply can't be. And we are convinced, the family and I haven't talked to them in a while, we are convinced that your coverage and Kara Kinney's, because Kara was involved in as well, brought justice to for their son who was run over by, he was on a scooter
driver.
And he was 0.28 drunk driver in Bloomington. As a matter of fact, she was so drunk she didn't know she hit him and dragged him for a few blocks, their only son. And I came right to you, and you were, quite frankly, marvelous. And I'm getting ready to come to you for something else that's almost exactly like that, involving a kid who was on his bicycle, a student at Purdue, was FaceTiming his mother while he was on his bike ride, and he got hit head on. So his mother
had to hear and see that.
Had to hear it. And had to hear the people who had hit him say, "Oh my God, we've killed him." So sorry to preview that story, but I'm coming to you. And
well, the family that you were talking about, they were so genuine and raw with their pain. I'll almost start crying. Ugh.
And I hate to say, Angela, the one that's coming
worse,
is
or not. No, I don't mean worse. I don't mean it like that, but you know what I mean. It's just it makes. It's just disgusting. And you think about how easy is it to not freaking get behind the wheel. I say to my kids all the time, you better never. You come and have something like that, I will be the first one to say you deserve to go to jail. There's zero. And you look at any of our jail records on any given day, drunk driving, drunk driving, drunk driving, drunk driving, drunk driving, drunk driving. Stop. Get an Uber. Get someone to drive you. Make plans. It's easy.
I used to get free IU basketball tickets and free Notre Dame football tickets. And all I had to do, since I've never had alcohol other than 3 or 4 drinks, they'd be like, "We'll buy your ticket, just drive."
Yeah, right.
And I'm
will
like,
you be my...
will you be my DD?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to be in any shape to drive home from South Bend or Bloomington or whatever. And, I don't understand it, but it's a scourge, to say the least.
And then I think about the shame and guilt that once you are sober, assuming that some people, I'm hoping that they feel that. I've had shame and guilt for really minor things that's like overcome me. Like someone would be like, "What, you were upset with yourself over that?" I'm like, "Yes." I can't imagine the shame and guilt and having that to live with the rest of your life.
You have been, as we've said, 32 years in the news business. The media landscape, the media business has changed, is changing, probably won't look the same in 10 years as it did. I've been doing PR and comms for maybe 20 plus years. The change is incredible. The turnover among people. Thank God Ruth Ann Gordon still takes my call. I love her. She's always been so wonderful to me. You have those people you can reach out to.
And we get to work with her now. I do, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. But there's so much turnover where someone in my business has to go, "I don't even know who's doing that." You don't have beats anymore. The list goes on and on. I wouldn't want you to be rough on your profession, but how do you, as a veteran for all these years, see its direction? And I'm not talking about people like me yelling and screaming about the liberal news media in DC or whatever. I'm just talking about the business. And how much longer do you see yourself in it?
So every contract, I say, Brad, my husband, I'm like, "Brad, I think I'm going to retire." And then he'll be like, and I'm like, I love it though. I mean, I still love the part of, I don't love getting, I mean, I don't get up that early compared to other people, but I still get up at 4 a.m. and that's not fun, and try, at 50, almost 55, getting up at 4 a.m. and trying to look good and have full makeup on, that's not easy. So
was it easy? Was it harder to look good when you had to sit next to Ray Cortopassi, Mr. Gay Cupcakes?
He's awesome, right? So, I mean, it was so much easier when you're young and you look good. But now it's not easy, and then people will let you know.
Actually, you won't remember this, but this is when I was working for Mayor Ballard. He did some sort of interview or whatever, and I wrote that. I said, "Thank you for interviewing him. You and Ray did a great job," or this and that. You looked wonderful, and you wrote back, "I'm an old hag." It's exactly what you wrote back. "I'm an old hag."
Oh, and now I really am.
But what's the news business going to look like? It's so much different.
It is so much different, and then. I don't even know. I mean, I think that you're saying so many more things like this. What the part that I like is, I'll just say it. My boss, sometimes one of my bosses, gets on me and says, "You get into the weeds too much." I'm like, the weeds is where the truth is. Mm-hmm. Like, you want me to be just shallow and give the basic. No, I don't want any part of giving that. I want you to know there's so much nuance. And the thing that's so frustrating to me today, you talked about liberal news media, and it's like it's funny. A viewer the other day said, "I don't like to watch anymore because I don't like the way this person delivers part of the news. They appear to be so in a bad mood. They seem to be so liberal. They seem to be that." And I think when you're on TV and you're only able to give a minute here, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, you can almost see sometimes where people are taking their side or giving it. It's like the nuance in the middle, the nuance of me hearing from you. And, we take these extremes and say, look at this side says this and this side says this. And you're like, actually, that's not what either side said. If you listen to what they really said, here's what they really said. Well, we don't have time to have that full soundbite, but that's where the truth is. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing for me that's so frustrating, which that hasn't really changed because TV news is always in sound bites. But I feel like more than ever, we don't do enough to make sure we're sharing the truth and giving you the amount of time to be able to say what you're really meaning and what the other side is really meaning in the words that they're saying.
Is that one of the reasons why you have, as you said a few minutes ago, not matriculated, but become significantly invested in justice? Because there is no bias per se in just trying to seek justice. And justice may not always be for the victim.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm one of the few Republicans who's against the death penalty, except for people who chew with their mouth open. They deserve it.
Yeah.
But you read so many stories about wrongful incarceration. Mm-hmm. So it's not just you seeking justice for the family whose daughter was killed, but it's also for the guy who's been sitting in jail or the girl who's been sitting in jail for 10 years for something they didn't do.
Mm-hmm. Or when, if someone, there's so many things I want to say right now, and I know we don't have enough time, but something that Mayor Hogg said to me one time still infuriates me, and I probably shouldn't say it, but I'm an open book, and he said, "Angela, everyone has dirt on their hands. As a former federal prosecutor, everyone has dirt on their hands." And that disgusted me. And I know I'm probably getting in trouble for saying this, but it's true.
In what context did he say it?
Well, there was a man in Indianapolis who was shot and killed while he was delivering food. He was a food delivery guy, and he was shot and killed. And he was like, "Oh, well, what else was he out doing at 3 or 4 in the morning?" And I was like, so there are a certain group of people that honestly believe that. Or as maybe if you're a prosecutor or an investigator and you say, okay, well, this looks like you did this. Well, you know what? We want you to plead guilty. We're going to go ahead and supersede the indictment. We're going to make you plead guilty. And that people don't think that happens. Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. It happens all the time. And to me, talking about federal trials, how many times do you see somebody on federal charges go to trial? It's like 3%. Because they know the risk of going is too great. So you take a plea deal. Is that justice?
One of my very near future podcast guests, I'm going to ask him that question.
Okay, who is it?
Greg Garrison.
Okay.
Whom we love.
He knows.
He knows. You talked about this and these sorts of things. There's 2 more questions before we get to the 5 questions we ask everybody.
Oh, okay. And I don't know what they are ahead of time.
You don't know what they are. That's correct. There's somebody, and I don't know her, and I'd love to get her on the podcast, whose courage I find inspiring and enlightening.
Okay.
And that's Sage Steele.
Oh, Sage. She's awesome. She's a friend of mine.
You guys were at IU at the same time?
No, she's younger. We worked in South Bend together.
Worked in South Bend together. Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think of Sage's willingness to break the narrative and do so in a way that makes her a target?
Well, I think that she's somebody who's authentic. So, do you respect someone who you know where they stand? You don't have to agree. People, if you know Sage, first of all, you know that she loves people. She would give the shirt off her back for anyone. She's a good human. She comes from an amazing family. She's an incredible mother. She's honest. And so many people today, you think that you might know someone, and then you don't even know. 1 minute they're saying one thing, and then the next minute they're. Do you not love authenticity and someone who will stand up for what they believe in? I think that's what I'm attracted to. Regardless if I believe everything that she believes or she believes everything that I believe, she knows the same thing about me. I'm going to stand up for what's right, and I'm going to tell you. You're going to know exactly what I think of something because I'm not going to BS you, and I'm not going to lie, and I'm not going to go talk about it with someone else. If I have an issue or something with you, I'm going to tell you. That's how she is.
Has it influenced you in any way as a journalist?
What do you mean, her? Being bold.
I don't know if bold quite covers it for her because she worked at ESPN. Mm-hmm. It's interesting too because a young lady at the time, her name is Jill Fredrickson. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever heard that name. She went to DePaul and she's one of the absolute top people at ESPN. Mm-hmm. Her locker was 2 down from mine at Howe High School.
Okay.
She's remarkable. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of people at ESPN who, let's just say, have a certain point of view. Mm-hmm. Sage had, in many ways, not all perhaps, the opposite point of view. Mm-hmm. And as a journalist, is that sometimes we're like, I'm making good money, I've got some prominence, I've got all these things going for me. Rocking the boat just simply doesn't do anything for my career or me personally to put myself as this target. She said, I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
That's what's so remarkable about her. Not just because she and I share the same views on a lot of things. Yeah. It's just the fact that none of that matters because this is a more important truth.
Yeah.
As a journalist, have you come across that in your own profession?
What do you mean? I come across that every day, but do you mean not feeling like you can speak out or wanting to speak out and not speaking out?
Feeling that I'm gonna talk to this person because I want to hear this person's point of view. And this person's kind of controversial at the moment, or his or her views are controversial at the moment. Do you feel like, hey, my views don't matter, but I want to hear your views, and you're coming on my red couch?
Yeah, I love to hear everybody's. I love to learn, and I think the thing about journalism now, a lot of times, people are not curious anymore. We're not journalists. So at a local level, we're supposed to cover local news. We do a great job of that. But when things are happening nationally, you're just taking something from the feed. You're literally taking the work of what somebody else said, and then you're putting it on television. So I'm always like, well, but that's not what was said. Let's go back and look at the raw interview. Did you see that this is what was said? Well, the way that journalist is interpreting it, or media person's interpreting it, and now it's on the national feed, and now we're saying it on television, that doesn't make it true. And why are we not being more curious to see, is that what was really said? That stuff is very frustrating to me, and that happens every day, and even on our show here locally. And if you ask anyone that knows me or that's in this building, I'm never shy or quiet about speaking up and telling people when I think, we have not been, that we've been not fair or that we're showing our bias.
We've reached the point on the Leaders and Legends podcast where we ask the same
Give me the 5 questions first.
5 questions. It's all, you're going to knock these out of the park for sure. It's all Daniel Miller questions.
Daniel Miller.
I know. I just want to go to
Jim
London with him.
O'Brien. I've worked with Jim for a long time. Yeah.
Nice guy. I don't know him as well, but
You don't?
Daniel Miller I know and think the world of.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I just want to go to London with him. It's my favorite city and
Right?
his favorite city.
Well, I'll let him know.
What was your first job?
My first job ever? Mm-hmm. Working at Roland Manor in Brownsburg. It's an assisted living. It's a different name now. Mm-hmm. And I took people that lived at the assisted living facility. I took them to the grocery store at Kroger, and I took them to Kmart. And then if they couldn't get out, they would give me their grocery list and they would give me their money. And then I would take their groceries back to them at the assisted living. And you should see me with 3 people, like maybe in their 80s, me as 18-year-old in my little car. I had a little red, not a Dodge Daytona, but like the Chrysler, I can't think of the name of it. Anyway, getting them in and out of the car. And then one time a woman got lost I couldn't find her at Kmart. And I thought that she went back and walked, but she really couldn't walk by herself. I was so panicked, couldn't find her. I kept going back and forth. Finally, she was in the dressing room at Kmart in Brownsburg, and she was trying on dresses, and she was in there, and she didn't hear me yelling for her. So anyway, that was my first job.
And these octogenarians could survive the Aquanet?
I know. I probably led to them like getting sick or something.
They could have lasted a lot longer if you hadn't. Were they sitting in the back seat with the Bartles and James bottles?
I did not drink. I never tasted alcohol like all through high school or anything. I was not a drinker.
You didn't drink at all till you got to IU?
Yes. Well,
if you're going to start someplace,
yeah, exactly.
IU
Over the summer, like after I'd had that job, over the summer was like the first time I ever tasted alcohol. But didn't drink it, but just tasted it. It was actually at the assisted living. I just told this the other day. So I was pouring wine for people, and I had never tasted any alcohol. I was like, I didn't want, because I had said I'm not going to drink alcohol. Just that's not something that I'm going to do. My parents never drank. And I was at the assisted living pouring them wine for an event. I was like, okay, no one's here. No one will know. I just want to taste it. I want to know what alcohol tastes like. And then I tasted it. It was at Roland Manor. It's the first place I ever tasted alcohol.
I enjoy interviewing everyone. But people roughly my same age are especially fun just because of all the shared experiences. Mm-hmm. Number 2, what was your first concert?
Well, I think my parents went to Jimmy Buffett and took me like when I was little. Like maybe it was Jimmy Buffett at the State Fairgrounds like in the 70s probably or something. I'm
sure.
But like one that I really wanted to go to, Belle Biv DeVoe. Now you know. Belle Biv DeVoe was a big one for me when I was like in like early 90s, college.
I was in the Army from 87 to 90, and my roommates were all black, and I said, I will never listen to Keith Sweat again. Once I get discharged,
love Keith Sweat.
Never, ever.
Keith Sweat is awesome.
And Al B. Shore on extended remix.
I had every Keith Sweat CD, and it was played over and over and over.
If you could suggest any book for someone to read, which book would you recommend?
Bible. Sorry, I know but that's the book, the Bible. You got to read it. Here's one that's like just Tuesdays with Morrie, and I think because the Mitch
Albom book.
My friend died from ALS, and that's what took his life. So I think probably that has a special place in my heart just because of what happened to my friend.
If you could witness any event in history, question 4. If you could witness any event in history, be there in person as it happens, which event would you choose?
Well, Easter Sunday was yesterday. So watching not the crucifixion, but Jesus rising from the dead on 2 days later.
Did you watch Passion of the Christ?
Yes.
Did you make it through without crying?
No. It's horrifying. I mean, wow. Yeah.
I know friends who I haven't seen it.
No, you haven't?
No, I need to watch it.
Wow.
I haven't seen it.
You have.
I went 4 times when it was out.
But I know friends of mine who left it.
Yeah, I mean,
or started screaming, stop hitting him. Mm-hmm. Stop hitting him. That's enough.
What year did it come out?
2002 or 3.
Okay, gosh, is that when it came out? I felt like
I was at the election. I was at the election
2002?
board. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he's coming out with a new one.
In the 90s. Wow, yeah.
If you could have dinner with anyone living today, 2 hours off the record just to chat, whom would you choose?
Off the record. Can I not say? Do I have to say why if I say somebody?
No.
Judge Tanya Pratt.
She is an angel. We have tried to get her on the podcast. It's purely a scheduling problem. I would love to talk to her. Mm-hmm. She is a remarkable woman.
Think about all of the people that that she's put in prison or allowed to not go to prison. Think about what you talk about someone who has power. Think about the power she has.
Have you had dinner with her?
Never.
Not lunch?
No.
Last question. We're getting close to May. Is May still just as special to you as it was when you were younger or just starting out in journalism?
Yes.
And you look forward to being at the track?
I do, and I know so many people hate this, but as I have 2 children that grew up with the tradition that I did. So when we were younger, we would go to the race. I probably went to the race 4 times from the time I was born to maybe 21. So you think about most of the time was spent listening to it on the radio.
Sure.
So that was the big tradition. And we would cut out you'd get the Indy Star and you'd cut out all of the drivers, and then you would pick, so you'd have your 3 drivers, so you'd be listening on the radio. My kids love tradition. They won't go to the race because they love that tradition of listening to it on the radio.
Really?
And so then people find out that they haven't been to the race and they think they're mortified that my kids have not been to the Indianapolis 500, but they're like, no, Mom, we love the tradition, going to grandma's house and listening to it on the radio and listening for our drivers and listening to the pre-race. So, but yeah, being there when all the pre-race ceremonies, that has to be the best sports moment of ever, right?
Do you cry during taps?
Yes.
Speaking of Sage Steele and her advocacy for veterans, I love it. But taps to me is the favorite.
And then the flyover and the silence and the roaring of the crowd, the sound of the engine. I mean, come on. What's your favorite moment? I'm supposed to record it tomorrow. What is my favorite moment? I don't know. What is my favorite moment? I'm not sure what the favorite moment is. It's all of that.
You've been listening to Leaders and Legends, a podcast presented by Veteran Strategies, an Indiana-based public relations enterprise and federally certified, veteran-owned business. Thinking of starting a podcast or need to host a public meeting? Let Leaders and Legends LLC be your partner as you look for new ways to communicate your message. Please contact us at chris@leadersandlegends.net. As always, all our podcast interviews are dedicated to the legacy and generosity of P.E. McAllister. Our guest today has been Angela Ganote, a lovely human, a kick-ass journalist, if I may say, without being bleeped. An old hag, self-described old hag. But she is, to many of us, a person we look up to, and I mean this sincerely.
Thank you.
Because she is journalism done right, and she is journalism done for the people who need help. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for allowing me to. Thank you for the invitation.